Good afternoon. Welcome back to Bangalore Biscuit Fest, the second edition. One of the earlier speakers, Manish Sabharwal, was earlier mentioning, I don't know if you remember, world is not made up of atoms, but it is made up of stories. The world is not made up of atoms, but it is made up of stories. Who is a better example to introduce us to this concept than Devdutt Pattanaik? India's preeminent chronicler of Indian mythologies. He writes about mythologies. The best part, he connects the unconnected. He connects the dots. He figures out how Indian mythology is connecting back to entrepreneurship, to governance, to leadership. And he gives us the best pearls of wisdom ever available to us. His business books include Leadership Sutra, Success Sutra, and Business Sutra. And if you've noticed, he's on the television these days. And he was a TED India speaker in 2009, and he spoke on myths that mystify. Over to you, Devdutt. Thank you very much.
Hi, good afternoon. So my name is Devdutt Pattanaik. I was born in Bombay and I've lived all my life in Mumbai. I studied medicine. It was the days when either you become an engineer or a doctor, and I decided to go in the medical field. And as you go through the process, you're too terrified to leave it and keep studying it, but somewhere along the line you realize you are not meant to be a clinician. And I decided not to pursue further studies, which created a horrifying situation for my middle class parents. It's like, what job do you do? And I didn't know, and the only thing I knew is I was fairly good at communication. And therefore I became a medical communicator for the pharmaceutical industry as a vendor. And I discovered what it means to be a vendor for large multinational conglomerates. How difficult it is to submit invoices, how difficult it is to get payments, how difficult it is to get business. What does it mean to do referrals? What does it mean to get repeat orders? I was a medical guy. I had never heard of these things. You have to learn if you have to pay the bills. If you have to manage a house, you have to learn on the streets. And literally, one of my earliest assignments were, the office was in a slum. But it was one of the most successful slums in Bombay, because slums are low-cost establishments. There are no taxes there. And I realized that a slum is not what you think it is from the outside. It is a rich, thriving economy which runs parallel to the large structures outside from where I was making my money. Eventually, I was given a job in a company called Sanofi Aventis. And it was a process. I first got in the .com industry, the 90s .com boom. I was asked to set up by someone a medical website which did very well, which resulted in me joining Apollo Health Street from the Apollo group of hospitals, which is now a BPO, and it has redefined itself from what it was before. And then I joined Sanofi Aventis, which was a pharmaceutical company. At that time it was called Aventis. And I was hired for a very strange job. I was called head of content management. I didn't know, because I only wrote articles and I edited articles and I managed medical articles and I had produced material for the sales forces. I didn't know what it meant. What is knowledge management? So I had to read books. what is content management, what is knowledge management, and I realized what is written in the book and what was being sold in the corporate house to the directors was very different. And suddenly I discovered the corporate world is a strange new place, where what is written is not what is spoken, and what is done has nothing to do with what is communicated. It was a very interesting world. And then I got an opportunity to manage a business unit, a very tiny business unit. I learned what it means to do profit, loss, training, talking to doctors, understanding what is advertising, what is marketing, what is sales, what is all kinds of things. And then a merger took place. The French company Sanofi took over a German and then American company called Relevance. And it was the most ruthless, horrifying battle that I saw inside the boardroom. I saw people in power being stripped of their power as if it was some kind of a battle going on. The boys were out there with the gloves off. And it was horrifying. And I was part of the transition process. Because by then, I had a fairly good understanding of technology. And I knew how things work. And I discovered I was good at organizing things, systematizing things, and articulate the organization because I was communicating. So this was my management experience, my business experience. Business for me was how to turn 1 rupee into 10 rupees. Management was how to get someone to do work that he doesn't want to do. And I learned these two things very well on the ground, no degree. But I was very lucky, great teachers on the job. So it's an apprentice model of studying management. And my natural inclination, because I'm a little bit of a nerd, as you can see, I read all the books, I was interested in the workshops, I genuinely wanted to understand what the meaning of the word strategy is, what exactly does profit mean, what does cash flow actually mean, what does profit in books actually mean. And it was great fun because you were seeing what happens because your presentations after presentation, when you see product managers being butchered. And you learn so much. But all the while, my answer to my personal passion in this journey, and this started I passed out in '93, I worked in the pharmaceutical industry till 2007. Then I joined Ernst & Young, and now it's EY, for about a year, a little bit over a year, where I was part of the business advisory team, and that's when I had to work in parallel industries, but it all came down to balance sheet, balance sheet, balance sheet. And I learned a lot about numbers. All this while, my parallel life was mythology. I would read the Ramayana, Mahabharata. I started writing books at the age of 1996. And I was like a published author. And it was very interesting because nobody at that time knew as to publish books. I would go to office and I would be just a regular guy. And in my own circles, in certain circles, I was fairly known as a writer of mythology, focuses on mythology. I had finished about 20 books. So I'm not an overnight success. It's been a long, long thing. I'd written about 20 books before Jaya happened and lots of people started hearing about my work. And it all came together suddenly because of a gentleman called Kishore Biyani of the Future Group. That was the retail boom was going on. He met me, and I met him only thinking, I should write these columns in newspapers about mythology and management. I suddenly discovered the correlation between the two, how you put them together. The patterns were so alike. The patterns were so alike, and I was like, why is nobody seeing this? It's so obvious, it's so obvious. And I shared it with him, and I thought he was just interested at an intellectual level, chai pe charcha kind of things. But he actually wanted to hire me. And I said, okay, fine. And just to test him out, I asked him 3 times what I was making in EY. And he gave it to me without blinking. So I said, what a generous man. My friend said, no, investor money. But at that time, it makes you feel good. Of course, then the terror sinks in. You leave E&Y on a partnership track for a Marwadi businessman who's found Indian mythology fascinating. How long will the love affair last? So you're on your toes. You have to survive. You work hard to make yourself relevant. And you really work hard. You understand the meaning of value. And I was very lucky because what I got is time. I got 4 years with the Future Group to articulate what I feel is the Indian approach to management. And if you don't get that time, now I realize why time is important. Sit and put the things together. Business Sutra to me is still an unfinished work. It's still crude in ideas. I leap between thoughts very rapidly because they make sense to me, but they may not make sense to a lot of readers. So I will wish to revisit it again, simplifying it even further. But what was my thesis? Where did it come from? Where is mythology, this abstract realm of Devas and Asuras and Ram and Krishna and Shiva and Zeus and the prophets and Exodus and Odysseus, all these mythic characters from all around the world, what do they have to do with the world of management, which is numbers, Excel sheets, PowerPoint presentations, money? What I'm told, real world. And this is what I realized. The word objective-based management. It didn't come in a vacuum. It came in a context. These are words and ideas that emerged in the last 100 years. They are not like there forever, since time immemorial. So it came in a context. We have to understand the context. Where did these words come from? They come from America. From America you trace it to Europe. You trace it to military establishments. You trace it to Jesuit missionaries. You trace it to the Roman army. And you see that. And this is the books I would read, the history of management. We would talk about it. Nobody talked about mythology, and very few would refer to it in a very poetic way. But for a mythology, because I was steeped in mythology, for me that's my nourishment. It feeds me. I noticed the pattern, this objective, I have to begin. The first thing you do is define an objective. I said, where do I hear this? I don't hear this in Indian mythology. I hear it in Greek mythology. Greek mythology talks of Elysium. In French, Champs-Élysées. That's how important it is. Here is France. Main street is called Champs-Élysées, which is a mythic place where heroes shall go. So if you are an ordinary person, you shall go to the asphodel field, the mediocre. For the mediocre. For the extraordinary, there is Elysium. That's where you will go. And that's your goal of a hero. He wants to go to that special place reserved for the best. In India, we call it IIM. Then, you see, but that's such a personal thing. It's very, very individualistic. Where else have I heard this? Hey, I've heard this in the Bible. A group of people living in abject poverty in slavery. Suddenly the prophet comes along. And the prophet says, I will take you to the promised land. And I will take you there. But to go there, you have to follow the rules of God. You have to make a command, you have to make a covenant with Him. And you have to follow the commandments. And I will take you across the wilderness to the promised land. Objective. Suddenly, promised land is your vision statement, mission statement, objective, goal. Covenant is your memorandum of understanding. Commandments is your standard operating procedures. And I'm like, there it is, the pattern. I am going to take the slaves to liberation exactly how you present to investors. If you want to present and get money from the investor, you have to say that Facebook will save the world. Internet will save the world. Every app is about to save the world. Every app is a Jesus. And you realize the pattern. Paigambar, the messenger. This is the model. It's a model. Let's not take it beyond. What is a model? You know, it's how you join the stars. We all know that stars exist. Constellations don't. Stars are data. Constellation is how you create the pivot table. It's how you join the dots. Because if you show a child and say, that is Cancer, that's a crab, that doesn't look like a crab. Or you look at Scorpio, that doesn't look like Scorpio. But somebody told you that's Scorpio and you stuck with that. Because you joined the dots in a particular way, it helped you divide the sky into 12 pieces, which is a very practical benefit in measuring time. When is summer, when is winter, when is sowing, when is harvest? So what begins with a natural, ontological reality outside your mind, that star is converted into a constellation by your mind that is an epistemological reality. And it helps you live your life. The problem is every culture looks at the stars, but everyone joins the dot differently. Therefore, in India, the primary system is not the zodiac, it is nakshatra. It's not 12, not division of 12, it's a division of 28 reduced to 27. It's just a different frameworking. Not right, not wrong, a different model. Indian stories do not talk about objectives. They don't. When I tell this, people say, no, there is objective, because we've assumed objective-based management, and objective is universal. The moment you assume that a model is universal, you are not opening your mind to new ideas, to innovations, to things which are different. You have to open up your mind. And a global village is about that, which is scaring the world right now. Because suddenly, the barbarian at the gate has become a sage. I'm not the barbarian anymore. I don't need to be civilized. I will civilize you. And that's scary. And therefore we need Donald Trump. Because he's saying what they are feeling. वो सच बोल रहा है, उनकी दिल की बात बोल रहा है. बाकी तो political correctness में बैठे हैं. No, we think we're all equals so long as you follow our way. Business is about territory. Business is about domination. I am culture consultant to Mukesh Ambani. I know what it means. And you learn so much when you spend time with very powerful people. You go in to teach them and they end up teaching you. Of course, the tragedy is you learn, they don't. I say it in front of him. That way he's being very generous, to be fair to him. That's not a politically correct statement, it's a personal relationship. Nobody's perfect. I'm not perfect either. Nobody, not a single human being is perfect. We all have our flaws, we do our best. And we sometimes do wonderful things, and the wonderful things can also create horrible things. That's the way life is. And I think everybody brings value, some form or the other. And you know, the famous line that the road to hell is paved with good intentions. If you understand karma, you will understand this immediately. Because Krishna establishes dharma, for which Gandhari gives him a curse. You may want to establish dharma. Are you ready to receive the curse? If you're not ready to receive the curse, bach ke raho. That's life. So, a thing like, when you are listening to Indian mythology, you ask, what is the objective? The word is not objective. The word which appears, and it's an easy word, I've selected this word of the many words that you find. And I have heard people say it's moksha and all that. And that's because you're listening to saffron-robed celibate men. In business world, it doesn't work. It does, really. You have to focus on the word artha, purushartha, meaning. Artha is meaning. The obsession with meaning. How do I make my life meaningful? How do I make my life meaningful? The approach is not the Paigambar approach, which is message giver. Paigambar is a Persian word. It means from the word Paigam. He who has brought the good news, the evangelist, the one who brings the news. So, I will take you to the promised land. That's a model. The other model is the Digambara model, the naked ascetic, who sits and says, ideas, things, meaning, artha, artha, artha. Therefore, Artha Shastra in India means economics, Artha Shastra means politics, and Artha Shastra means philosophy. The study of Lakshmi, the study of Durga, and the study of Saraswati. In the act of making a pot, the potter gets wisdom. So it is Lakshmi because it's a product he's going to sell in the market. It is Durga because he can control the ecosystem by saying, today I will not make pots. And people will say, no, 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 without you we can't live. So you can dominate the market and say, I will give the best pot to the king, or I will control you through it. I can play power games using the pot. He can ration it out. He can do everything with that pot. And it is philosophy. In the act of making the pot, he's asking himself, so what's the purpose? So why do I exist? My father built pots, I'm making pot, my child is going to make pots. This was the old model in India, right? You follow your father's profession. What's the purpose? So, artha kya hai? What is artha? Artha, artha. It's simultaneous. I'm making money, I'm playing games with the market, and I'm trying to figure out who I am. All three simultaneously. And therefore the word is not objective-based management, it is meaning-based management. It is not about Paigambar, it is about Digambar. And it's very strange because naked ascetic, that is Gomateshwara Bahubali, is that, or the Tirthankara, or, and we're talking about business. Oh, come on, there's no relationship. Cannot be a relationship, right? Because measurable, we're looking at measurable, tangible things. And how can a naked ascetic talk to me about business? Because we are trapped in the world of Nama and Rupa, Saguna, measurable entities. When I look at the naked man, do I see a poor man? Or do I see an accomplished king who has given up his robes? What do I see? What is measurable? Because I can measure nakedness. I cannot, and therefore I assume वो नंगा है इसलिए वो गरीब है. I don't look at the naked man and say it's not the absence. I don't have clothes. It is I choose not to have clothes. Very different. And they both will exist, and you have to figure, how do you know it? How do you know it? The world of nirguna, the world of emotion, the world of thoughts, the world of ideas, the psychological realm. So it is not just the measurable realm, and that's, management is about measurement. And we are struggling, right? The humanities are struggling to measure the mind. Therefore we have strange words like happiness index. word reveals so much. Happiness, yes. Index. Why the desire to reduce everything to a quantitative? To make it predictable? Why do you want to make it predictable? Because unpredictability terrifies you. You don't want to be frightened. You want to be assured of quarter by quarter returns. In other words, you're dealing with human fear. And it is human fear that is creating conglomerates. Our inability to handle VUCA, volatile, uncertain, complex, ambiguous markets, which in Hindu mythology is called Kshirasagar, the ocean of milk, which is stormy ocean moving up and down, in which the sage watches as if he's floating on a banyan leaf, unafraid. In the Jain traditions, they knew up and down happens because the Jains, many of the Jains were trading community people. They came from the trading community. For whatever reasons, various historical factors. And I will use the Jain mythology as a model today to explain just few concepts and see, can we use these models in our day-to-day life to complement what we already know, not to substitute. Not a substitute, it's a complement. Maybe a supplement. I believe it's a complement. What is it? So the Jains had a very interesting notion of time. They didn't believe in a creator God. No God creates the world. The world is Ananta and Anadi. It has no beginning, no end. And it is moving like a serpent. The time moves like a serpent. So it goes up and it goes down. It goes up and it goes down. It goes up and it goes down. Going up is Avasarpani and going down is, going up is Uttasarpani, going down is Avasarpani. Moving, 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 moving. Why are they talking of time like this? They use words like Shushama Dushama, cyclical nature of fortune. And you realize these are businessmen. Market mein boom hota hai, bust hota hai. When it is boom time, you take stupid decision which causes the bust. And in bust, you reorient and redefine yourself, which enables the boom. It's not magical. It's cyclical. It's predictable. Many of the things are predictable. And this cycle is moving all the time. You should be lucky to be born at the apex and not at the nadir. But it is changing. So this is the way the world is designed. And then they say that in every age there will be 63 great human beings. Look at these people. Look at this mythology. At one level it's infinite. No God, no beginning, no end, time moving in up and down patterns, nothing predictable. Suddenly they come up with defined predictability. Only 63 great people will be there in one era. Not 64, not 62, 63. The precision of it. And they have already been named. So if you are not one of those, please know you will not be great. So established at the beginning. So a good Marwadi father will tell his son when he's going to the market, leave your nose at home. Naak ko bazaar mein mat leke jao. If you're doing a business, leave your ego behind. Value दो, value लो. और value दे नहीं सकते हो तो लेकर जरूर आना. नहीं तो लड़की नहीं मिलेगी. So everything has a price. The 63 Mahapurushas, and details aside, can be three names emerge. There is the conceptual, not to be taken literally. Please don't take it literally, because the moment you start taking it literally, you start taking the journey towards becoming an internet troll. And that's not a place I wish for you. These are metaphors, beautiful concepts. First concept, Vasudeva. Who is a Vasudeva? The simplest model for it is the struggling startup entrepreneur. Because a Vasudev is a violent character. He disrupts the market. He breaks things down. He's the only character who is violent. Remember, Jainism in the largest way is considered is a non-violent religion. It doesn't like violence. But it accepts Vasudeva and his enemy, the Prati Vasudeva. So Krishna is a Vasudeva, Jarasandha is a Prati Vasudeva in the Jain traditions. But that's a model. It basically means, what's the idea? He will disrupt things, he will fight, he will have the sword out, he will use strength and cunning to get his way into the market. He will change the world. He will not rest. He's aggressive. He's brutal. Besides him is a brother, Baladeva. Kind and gentle. But the two brothers will always be together. They'll always be together. You go to most business houses, you will see these two brothers. The good cop and the bad cop. The one who signs the deal, the other who does the negotiations. The CEO and the chief operating officer. This balancing act is done. They change the world. They change the rules of the game. That's one category. The second category is the Chakravarti, the universal emperor. He who has inherited his fortune, old money, wants to retain his power and his wealth, who will create systems and laws that apparently look fair, but ensure he is always on top. So great regulatory rules for the good of the country to prevent entrepreneurship. Chakravarti. Because he's got it on a platter, he doesn't know what it means to struggle. The Chakravarti and the Vasudev will always be at loggerheads. Old money, new money. Europe, America. The landed gentry of Europe and the business bankers of America. The Kshatriya, who owns the land, and the Vanika, who owns the market. Both demanding control and domination. The landed persons, intangible wealth, tangible wealth, the bazaar ki cheez, jo bazaru hoti hai, in English we call it marketing. Bazaar mein value create hota hai. One is a commodity space, the other is the brand space. And you suddenly realize this tension between the two, the Kshatra and the Vanika. And this is being talked about in a different way. These words which I use right now are from the Hindu traditions. In the Jain traditions, there is Vasudeva and there is a Chakravarti. And they are fighting with each other. But above that is the Tirthankara. And Tirthankara is the one who has crossed the bridge which exists. Tirtha means a ford which is covered by water. So nobody knows you can move from one bank to the other bank. You can just walk on water, literally. Because you know where it is. You don't have to build a bridge. It's a natural phenomenon. He sees it and he crosses across. He's able to see patterns that nobody else sees. And we try to understand what the Tirthankara, because there are only 24 of them. And they try to communicate their wisdom. And that wisdom is that really, when the Vasudeva is successful, he'll become the Chakravarti. And when the Chakravarti is failing, he'll become the Vasudeva. It's a cycle. They are just two sides of each other. When you are struggling, the young man struggling, ambitious, he will go up and then he'll try to stabilize things and block and become the enemy of the next generation. Like family businesses, where even fathers don't want to give control to their children. Because मैंने business बनाया है, मुझे पता है business कैसे चलता है, बेटा तेरे को नहीं समझ में आएगा, गद्दी नहीं छोड़ूंगा मैं. By the way, I'm 89 years old. And therefore the difficulty in dealing with professionals and the tension between family-owned businesses and professionals is legendary. उनको क्या पता है? वो तो यहाँ ज़्यादा पैसा मिलेगा तो वहाँ पे चले जाएंगे. Their services are to be bought and sold. When I value loyalty, why would I bother with professionals? These These are the concepts that emerge. So you have these, and the Tirthankara sees the pattern. He understands the pattern. And he sees what's going on and steps back. And I found this model very useful because at the bottom of it comes an understanding of human psychology. That human beings emerge from plants and animals. We have all the qualities of an element, we have all the qualities of a plant, we have all the qualities of an animal within us. Like a plant is always hungry and seeking to grow towards sunlight and water, we also want to grow towards something that nourishes us. That's the direction of growth. We'll always go there. Jahan pe khana milega, hum wahin pe jayenge. Like migratory birds. And like animals, we will be dominating and territorial to secure our property. I will dominate, I will create pecking orders. It makes me feel good about myself. I feel powerful and strong. That's what makes me powerful and strong. But then I become human and discover that what's the point of it all? Because animals don't ask this question, who am I, what am I? The mango tree just produces the mango tree. I am told, market mein mango ka value nahi hai, sir, please become a pomegranate tree. And I feel so terrible because all I know in my life is to make mangoes. And I'm continuously asked to reframe myself, redefine myself, rebrand myself because market is VUCA. Badlo, 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 change, change, change. And you discover these ideas, the pattern is very different. It's about meaning. This model in the Hindu tradition is presented slightly differently. Slightly differently. And I'm simplifying it, perhaps oversimplifying it. And the clue to it comes in the ritual of yajna. And what is yajna? Yajna is a ritual which is about 4,000 years old. We know it's 4,000 years old because the first hymn of the Rig Veda mentions it. And if you look very carefully at the yajna involves, and this is a pattern that is followed, and you find this pattern similar to the pujas which are practiced in temples today. It begins, the person who initiates is called a yajaman. He is the yajaman. He invokes a devata and tells the devata, this food I offer you, swaha, this is what I'm giving you. You're hungry, you're a living creature. If you're living, you'll be hungry. If you're living, you will be nervous and frightened. I will protect you. I will give you food, naivedya. I'll give you light. I'll give you incense. I'll give you good things. I'll give it to you. And at the end of it, I'll do falastuti. Now that I've given you something, you are in my debt. Get me admission into IIM. And suddenly you realize this model is very similar to Yajaman being the investor, Devata being the investee, Swaha being the investment, Tathastu being the return on investment. To give you an example, one temple starts succeeding in giving the wishes of people, it becomes popular. It's called Ichha Purti Bhagwan. It has the highest repeat orders and referrals. Highest. You just go to Tirupati Devasthan. You actually give him money so that he gives you no money. Now that's called strategy. तेरा पैसा मेरे को दे, तेरे को पास बहुत पैसा आएगा. Some people have tried it and got into trouble. I don't name their names, but we know who they are. Yeah, I know I'm in Bangalore, but yes. But the thing is, this model shows how people think. Now Digambara model in trade, this process, this is exchange. What has the naked ascetic got to do with it? Strange, right? And this is the tension in Indian thought. The tension between the hermit and the householder. The hermit says, "Sab maya hai, chhod do, don't do yajna." And the householder, like Arjuna Singh, should I kill, shouldn't I kill, what do I do? Kuch to karna hai, life is important, pleasure, I like property, I like my money, what's wrong in a vacation in Sweden? And a few accounts which nobody shall know. Surely there is value in it. And this tension is there today, it was there, yesterday it will be there. Today it's a very strange world. Hermits are becoming householders. You know, in FMCG industry. That's the power. This tension is there in India for thousands of years. But the householder has two parts. The householder is, the question that is asked is, whose hunger are you trying to satisfy? So there is Indra, the king of heaven, who is obsessed. He's got everything in the world, but he's extremely insecure and nervous and frightened because he's obsessed with his own hunger. His entire business is about my hunger, my property, my wealth, my. Indra. So मैं अपने लिए कर रहा हूँ. So Indra is always at war. Indra lives in this wonderful paradise. He has everything that you can imagine, but he's always insecure. The moment he sees an asura being born, he goes to his father, Brahma, the regulator, and says, kill him. Don't let him enter my market. The moment a young entrepreneur starts doing yagna, he will go and steal the horse. And if there is a customer who like a tapasvi shuts down and says, I don't want a product service, he will send someone from the Apsara department. Give him a deal that he can't refuse. Line lag jayegi dukaan mein. Indra is not worshipped in India. He has everything. He's glamorous, he's beautiful, he's got all the wine, women, whatever you can imagine, but he's not worshipped. He is not worshipped. Who do you worship? Shiva. Naked ascetic. Digambara. Covered with ash, sitting on a mountain top. Chilling, literally. And what is the funny thing about this is that he is on a snow-capped mountain where nothing grows. And he rides a bull. What does the bull eat? Grass. No grass on Mount Kailas. Simple, I'll just destroy his hunger. No. If there is no hunger, why does he need food? Shiva is Kamantaka. Destroyer of hunger, destroyer of desire. भूख ही मिटा दूंगा तो फिर क्या मार्केट ही नहीं रहेगा. My God, imagine telling this to Donald Trump. Adam Smith will faint. There's no desire. Imagine the possibilities. In the Bible they call it, the lion shall lay with the lamb. It's a world where there's no hunger. Where the lion will not eat the lamb because there's nobody hungry. Beautiful world. In Gujarat it's called Bagh Bakri Chai. Chai piyo. Bagh Bakri, it's a beautiful model. However, this is a boys' club. Vasudeva, Chakravarti, Tirthankara, Indra, Shiva. Where is the goddess? So Shakti comes and goes to Shiva and says, very good. You are not hungry. Great man, supreme soul. What about the rest who are not hungry? What about my children who are hungry? And Shiva says, let them fend for themselves. I don't care. No. Social responsibility. अपने पहाड़ से नीचे आइए. From Kailas come to Kashi, the land of the crematorium, the land of the market, the land of the dancer, land of theatre, जहाँ पे लोग नाचते हैं, गाते हैं, खाते हैं, मरते हैं. दिल टूटता है. काशी में आइए. So here is a hermit who says, okay, fine. Gets married to her. Comes down, produces children. Why would a hermit who has outgrown all hunger want to marry and produce children? And nobody finds it ironical. मुझे भूख ही नहीं है. I don't want anything. And I'm being told, do the yagna. I have walked out of the yagya. I have destroyed Daksha's yagyashala. And I am being told, come back to the yagna. By whom? The goddess. Nonsense, ye nahi chalega. And there's a beautiful image, if you go to Kashi, of the goddess producing food. She's Annapurna. And Shiva as Bhikshatana, asking for food. And the irony of it is very interesting. The goddess is cooking food for a husband who is not hungry. And the God is asking for food even though he is not hungry. Why? Because they are satisfying other people's hunger. दूसरों गणों की भूख मिटाने के लिए किसका भूख मिटा रहे हो? Mine or yours? जीवात्मा और पर आत्मा. Para means the other. Para means the transcendent. Param means the infinite. Are they related? Para, para, param. The other, सामने वाला. Yajna is for whose benefit? For the Deva's benefit or the Yajaman's benefit? If I am always hungry, the Yajaman is hungry, he doesn't pay attention to it. It's just a strategy, man. Swaha is a strategy. I want tathastu. ROI चाहिए. ये सब strategy है, करना पड़ता है value के लिए. Words that I'm using are heard in the boardroom. Swaha is not important. Tathastu is important. Indra. Shiva, no yagna. And this is the Vishnu model. I am not hungry. Really, I am not hungry. However, I pretend to be hungry. That's why Leela Purushottam, the game player. And I'll feed you so that I get something. But the process is for you. You a matter. Para. The other matters. India matters. The have-not matters. The unprivileged matter. But it cannot happen unless I have privilege. Because if I have nothing to give, the cycle won't take place. And this journey, who is the have and the have-not in this relationship? And that defines the yajna. So it marries the Vasudeva, Chakravarti, Tirthankara concept in a very nice way by going into the realm of meaning. How do you derive meaning? तुम भोग कर रहे हो या दूसरों को भोग दे रहे हो? जो दूसरों को भोग देता है वही भगवान है. तो यजमान से वो भगवान बनता है. जो भाग, proportion distribution. He doesn't want a bhag. He's not hungry, but he will pretend, no, I want it. Leela. Like a mother running after the child saying, please eat this food, otherwise I will die. And the child feels good about it. Yes, mommy, I will eat. To save the mother. Leela. The other is your child. किसके लिए कर रहे हैं हम? This is what the Digambar is saying. Krishna is Digambara. No hunger, but he's dressed in peacock feathers and dancing and singing. Rama is Digambara, but he's wearing a crown, sitting on the... Because he has to play those roles. करना पड़ता है दुनिया के लिए. किसके लिए कर रहे हो? In Marathi it is कशासाठी कोणासाठी. For whom are you doing it? That is not asked in modern management. The assumption is me. Aham brahmasmi, aham brahmasmi. Yes, he says that's true, but the second part is important. Tattvamasi. So is you. So are you. Everybody matters. And it's a complex ecosystem. We are all frightened, we are all struggling. These are the patterns of Indian tradition. Yajna karo. And if you are not happy with the tathastu, the problem is with the investment. And the investment is not just financial, it's also emotional and intellectual. Jaisa swaha, vaisa tathastu. And that for me, if we become Vishnu, Lakshmi will walk our way. We don't have to run after her as Indra does. We make ourselves desirable. The investors will come. The customer will come. The talent will come. How do we make ourselves desirable? How do we make ourselves a great investment hub? What is it that we have to do that people will come? We don't have to go to the water will come to us. And I think that's the thought, that's the pattern, that's the ancient Indian wisdom literature and its relationship to modern management. Thank you. Clear type of question?
Yes, 10 minutes.
Loud. So, there are several Indian business houses.
Yeah.
And I recently read in the book called Marwadis.
Yes.
Paper that Birla's 8th generation.
Yes.
Yet, there is very little known about why Marwadi business houses have transcended for so many generations.
Yes.
And our business schools are flooded with the Western literature, which
Yes.
is barely 100-year-old. So, can you give some insights on what allowed the Marwadis to sustain for such a long period, and what can management learn from there?
See, I usually don't give examples, and I don't like to give examples, because I prefer working in the realm of theory. Because it is almost then saying that, what happens in our heads is now that I've given a model where Indra sounds terrible and Vishnu sounds good, every time I give this lecture, the person in front of me starts imagining, well, hum log to Vishnu ke baare. So that becomes a problem. But I feel sustainable model in India, you're talking about Marwadi for 8 generations. If you were to look at an Indian temple as an economic unit, they have survived for 1,000 years. How? How did they survive for 1,000 years? And if you read Tamil temple inscriptions, and I have a friend who's been showing me some of the inscriptions for me, for the first time I got what I consider to be proof of concept, which I can be absolutely sure of. Because when you start looking at the temple inscriptions and you start seeing a pattern what is emerging, you see the whole idea where is, if I look at dispute between two people, why are you doing what you're doing? They didn't come into it doing it for the other. They said, Bhagwan ke liye kar rahe. So they had a model called, if you look at a temple as an institution, so for example, this is my god, Beli. Beleshwar ke liye main kaam kar raha hu. So it's a model that is continuously telling me that this wealth is for Beleshwar. It's not yours. It forces me to move towards, because I hate my brothers. I hate my cousins who are smarter than me. I hate my father who is not giving, gaddi ke liye sab log kaam kar rahe hain. So I have externalized and created a paratma. I don't really care for people and poor people and all that nonsense. I care for Beleshwar. And therefore every money is going to Beleshwar. And Beleshwar does many good things. And so the entire obsession with the temple deity, the temple deity becomes the central institutional model. So if you see, I don't know who the scholar is, but this person who discovered this about the Marwadi community, that how they would give donations and charity. You don't give it to institutions, you give it to Srinath ji ko hum itna takka de rahe hain. There is always in your boardroom, Tirupati Balaji can become a director. This is the Indian model. So they use this is very important, Beleshwar ji chahiye. So Rajputs used Ekling ji, Gujarati Vaishnavas used Srinath ji, in Odisha they used Jagannath. Every day large transactions take place, lots of economic activity takes place. Every year the carpet, remember that chariot every year is broken, which means there is assurance of income for the carpentry community every year. Har saal usko khana milega. You see this in the Jain traditions. There is a very famous statement in Jain tradition that if the temple gets completed, तुम्हारा धंधा चौपट होगा. The temple में वो ठक ठक की आवाज, the work of the artisan has to go on and on and on, which means what? In making your wealth, you are ensuring sustainability of the artisan. That is nothing to do with dhanda, no? But that is dhanda. And that is how you sense. And how do you ensure quality control of the artisan? He has to every time give you bori of the sand, and they will pass it through a sieve to check the quality of the sand. Because if it is big rocks, then you are not doing quality work. And therefore quality, temples after temples after temples are being built, Really what it is doing is expanding and ensuring your wealth is being distributed to different communities. You see this in Tamil Nadu, where they'll say if you want to give a lamb to the deity, you have to give 20 goats and 10 cows. Why? Arey deep to diya hai, sustainability. Where will the oil come from? The ghee come from? And therefore I need a cow, I need a goat, which means I need a goat herd, a cow herd, who has to take care of it. So uski rozi roti chalegi. So the lamb in the temple of the god is an indicator of families you are sustaining. So is that stone image inside the temple being benefited or many more? That's an indicator, the key performance indicator hai. So the king will say, I have built a temple where 10,000 lamps are lit every night. He's just telling you how many people he has taken care of. Or, मैं गोदान कर रहा हूँ. Now it's a dangerous word today, right? Terrifying word. Replace the word go with employment. रोजी रोटी. कितना गोदान किया है तुमने जिंदगी में? And the story of Devdutt comes, very beautiful story. Devdutt loses his place in heaven, and the God says, listen, all your merit is over. खत्म हो गया, अभी तुमको स्वर्ग में जगह नहीं मिलेगा. So he said, this is not fair, I worked so hard. He says, if anybody remembers your good deed on earth, you can come back. He goes on earth, 1,000 years pass, nobody remembers him. And finally an old turtle says, oh, I have remembered you, you built the lake. He says, I in my lifetime never built a lake. So don't lie. He says, no, you built a lake. तुमने इतनी गोदान की कि गोधूली से there was a pond created. And in that pond my grandfather lived, and he told me Devdutt built the pond. So he didn't realize, he was doing godan. There was collateral benefit called a pond where animals were taken care of, which is why Devdutt shall go back to heaven. This is about sustainability, long-term thinking.
So just a comment, can we then say that religion is a viability of economic growth?
Mythology is a viability. Always. See, religion instantly evokes intolerance. Mythology is कहानी है ना, stories है. पसंद नहीं है तो छोड़ दो. जगत मिथ्या ब्रह्म सत्य. That is the best thing. You don't like Baileshwar? HP-Eshwar. चलो. But मंदिर में दीप तो जलेगा. That is important. And that is important. So you can see it as, oh, they really believed that the gods lived here. Yes, there were some people in one end of the bell curve. On the other end of the bell curve, there were people who realized it's an important model to exist. Otherwise, large, complex agricultural ecosystems, how will they survive?
But is this also the problem why the Indian system doesn't work? Because the temples are no more where whatever you are worshipping, your Baileshwar is not anymore a viable way of employing people or across society. Maybe one part of society.
See, maybe you should call me for more lectures. But see, the model is cyclical. Nothing lasts forever. What begins, everything will decay and die. Therefore, there is a Yuga system. Nothing will last forever unless it's renewed. The Abhishek has to be done. In India, we stopped doing the Abhishek. Nothing is renewed, so we decayed naturally. You can always come back. And the source, and this is of course my hypothesis. There's no way to absolutely prove it, but you have to trust my judgment on this on the basis of assumptions. I'm done. The Kalki avatar is not someone who is going to defeat the barbarian. The Kalki avatar is the barbarian, who brings in new ideas, who forces you to redefine yourself. And we have been forced to redefine ourselves in the global village. Otherwise, I wouldn't be sitting here. That globalization has shaken us up and said, redefine ourselves. Yug badla, avatar badla. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Could I please invite Walter Vieira to present a small talk?